Today, we talk about one of the most significant and controversial figures in Philippine history, Ferdinand Marcos, and how his leadership shaped the country for generations.
At a palace news conference, his top general argued with him.
I understand you gave them orders to wait.
I told them to wait because
they are massing civilians near our troops, and we cannot keep on withdrawing. They asked us to withdraw yesterday. When I talked to Mr. Enrile, he said, you talk to you, we withdraw a little.
My order is to disperse
We cannot
the crowd
withdraw all the time, Mr. President.
without shooting them. No, hold on. You disperse the crowd without shooting them.
Ferdinand Marcos was born in 1917 in Sarat, Ilocos Norte. He rose quickly in politics. He became a congressman, then a senator, and eventually Senate president. In 1965, he was elected president of the Philippines. In 1969, he won a second term, the first president under the 1935 Constitution to do so. During his early years in office, Marcos focused on infrastructure and modernization. Roads, bridges, cultural institutions, hospitals, and government buildings were constructed. Among the notable projects were the Cultural Center of the Philippines, the Philippine Heart Center, and the San Juanico Bridge connecting Samar and Leyte. However, the most defining moment of his presidency happened in 1972. On September 21, 1972, Marcos declared martial law. He said it was necessary to stop communist insurgency, rebellion, and rising lawlessness. Through Proclamation 1081, civil liberties were suspended, Congress was closed, and media outlets were shut down. Many opposition leaders were arrested, including Senator Benigno Aquino Jr. The country was placed under authoritarian rule. Supporters of Marcos argue that during martial law, discipline was enforced, crime rates decreased, and infrastructure projects expanded. They describe it as a time of order and national direction. But critics and human rights groups tell a different story. Thousands of Filipinos were arrested without warrants. Many reported torture, enforced disappearances, and abuse, according to official records recognized by the Philippine government decades later. More than 11,000 victims of human rights violations were formally acknowledged under the Human Rights Victims Reparation and Recognition Act. Economically, the country initially saw growth driven by foreign borrowing, but by the early 1980s, the Philippines faced severe debt, inflation, and economic decline. The country's external debt grew significantly during this period. In 1983, a major turning point happened. Benigno Aquino Jr., a strong critic of Marcos, returned from exile in the United States. He was assassinated at the Manila International Airport upon arrival. His death shocked the nation and intensified public protests. This event eventually led to the historic People Power Revolution in February 1986. After a controversial snap election between Marcos and Corazon Aquino, widow of Benigno Aquino Jr., millions of Filipinos gathered peacefully along EDSA. Key military officials withdrew support for Marcos. On February 25, 1986, Marcos and his family fled to Hawaii. His 20-year rule came to an end. Ferdinand Marcos died in exile in 1989. Now let's talk about the Marcos family. His wife, Imelda Marcos, was known not only as First Lady, but as a powerful political figure. She served as governor of Metro Manila and Minister of Human Settlements. She became internationally known for her lavish lifestyle, especially her large collection of shoes. After years in exile, the Marcos family returned to the Philippines in the 1990s. Over time, they rebuilt their political influence. Their son, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., served as governor of Ilocos Norte, then senator, and in 2022, he was elected president of the Philippines, marking a major political comeback for the family 36 years after the 1986 revolution. The Marcos era remains one of the most debated periods in Philippine history. Some remember it as a time of infrastructure development, centralized leadership, and national discipline. Others remember it as a time of authoritarianism, suppression of freedom, human rights violations, and economic hardship. History teaches us that leadership carries enormous responsibility. Power can build a nation, but it can also wound it. The story of Ferdinand Marcos and his family is not just about politics. It is about how decisions at the highest level affect millions of lives. As citizens, it is important that we study history carefully, not emotionally, but critically. We must examine facts, listen to multiple perspectives, and learn from the past. Because when we understand history, we become wiser voters, wiser leaders, and wiser Filipinos. This is not about choosing sides. This is about choosing understanding. And when we choose understanding, we grow as a nation. With all that has been said, it is the reason why Ferdinand Marcos Sr. is to be known.